Today, we are going to talk about one of the most famous people in history that you've probably never heard of. He's also one of the most maligned people in history, even though, again, you haven't heard of him. You've all seen his work, even if you didn't know it was his. Contestants? Any guesses? His name is Gerardus Mercator. He was a Flemish geographer who made the map of the world that you might last remember seeing hanging in a school classroom. But it's also used in every navigation app on your phone. On this week's show, we're talking about Mercator's map, why it was needed, why people don't like it, and why they're wrong.
We choose to go to the moon.
Right now, you like me.
Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
Welcome to 5 Minute Trivia, where we're making the world smarter 5 minutes at a time. I'm your host, R.M. Zuberi. Imagine that you're a sailor in the age of exploration. You want to cross the Atlantic, circumnavigate the Earth, discover new lands, and maybe do a lot of bad stuff like spread disease or start up the slave trade. But the ocean is massive and terrifying and completely disorienting. The waves can turn your vessel every which way and you wouldn't even know it. So, how did anyone get from one place to another? Simple answer? Not well. As much as they could, ships stayed within sight of land. When they ventured into the ocean, they got lost a lot. Columbus, da Gama, Magellan, they all got lost. But still, they tried using whatever they had. They oriented heading based on the position of the sun. They also used other celestial bodies like the North Star and known locations of constellations based on the time of the year. Seasoned navigators also relied on dead reckoning, where they combined compass bearings with their own knowledge of winds and wave currents. The one thing they didn't use was a map. Maps work just fine for local navigation on land, but for vast ocean distances, they didn't work for an obvious reason. The world is round. On flat maps, the Earth's curvature was represented by lines of longitude that curved like parentheses. To plot a course, you had to plot what's called a rhumb line through them that also curved around, and these rhumb lines were so imprecise that they were basically useless. Mercator fixed that by straightening out all those lines. He imagined the world as a cylinder and then unraveled it onto a flat plane. He made straight right angles at the intersections between latitude and longitude. And it worked great for navigation. More about that in a minute. Now, these curved rhumb lines were suddenly straight. You could plot a course from anywhere to anywhere else just by drawing a straight line between them and following that course with all the other tools you had. Now, that was the whole point of his map. It was there to aid in navigation, and it did that. It was not designed to give any sense of scale between one landmass or another, which is good because the Mercator projection absolutely sucks at that. See, to make those nice straight lines work in the real world, Mercator had to stretch things out as he got farther away from the equator. If you go to the show notes for today's episode at 5minutetrivia.com, that's the number 5minutetrivia.com, you'll see the problem. Near the equator, where the globe was rolled out, everything looks okay. But the farther north or south you go, the more distorted the land masses look. On the Mercator projection, the island of Greenland and the continents of South America and Africa all look about the same size. In reality, Africa is 14 times larger than Greenland and 1.5 times the size of South America. Alaska and Australia look the same, but Australia is actually 4.5 times bigger. The continent of Antarctica looks bigger than the entire world put together. These distortions have resulted in some controversy. People tend to equate size with importance, and places like Europe that are farther away from the equator look more important than more equatorial locations. Some historians believe this artificial size discrepancy has contributed to colonial impulses. For example, imagine France, gazing upon a map of the world and choosing to invade Madagascar instead of, say, Iceland. On Mercator's map, they look about the same size, but you don't have to fight Vikings on Madagascar. In reality, Madagascar is 5 times the size of Iceland. Note for Trivia Night, France did, in fact, conquer Madagascar. This imbalance has led atlases and history books to abandon the Mercator projection in favor of alternatives that show landmasses more proportionally. But it's important to remember that Mercator wasn't trying to show the world as it was, or as he thought it should be. He was just trying to make life easier for everyone. And in that, he succeeded. Practically every marine chart still uses the Mercator projection. All of the online street mapping services like Google and Apple Maps use a version called Web Mercator. So the next time you pull up directions to some place, take a moment and thank him. That's this week's show. Tune in next week to our final episode of 2025. Thanks for listening.